Here's Harris, contested three now. Rebound ripped down by Perkins, and Missouri will knock off number one for the first time since 1997. This storied rivalry lives up to its billing this afternoon. Missouri knocks off number one Kansas in a series that dates to 1907. An unexpected Tigers upset.
Gonna throw it. Slant. This bunch for you, Mizzou.
They are carving up this LSU defense.
You don't get no better than that, man.
Now Cook's gonna throw the deep ball. And Burton's past the defense. Touchdown, Luther Burton. 47 yards.
Place kick is up. It is. Yes, a walk-off winner from 61. Harrison Mevis.
This is the Mizzoucast.
Howdy, Tiger fans. Welcome to the Mizzoucast. I'm your host, Brendan Anthony. Joining me, as always, is my longtime brother, Colin Anthony.
What's up, dum-dums?
We are coming to you after the conclusion of the regular college football season. The conference championship games have concluded and the bowls have been decided, including the college football playoffs. But before we get into all of that, another important bit of Missouri news has taken place.
What's that?
The Tigers faced the Kansas Jayhawks at home in basketball in a year where there weren't super high expectations that you could beat Kansas because they were the number one team in the nation. Yet, at the conclusion of the game, the Missouri Tigers were the victors, 76-67.
You have to be a real stupid asshole to bet against the Tigers here.
Well, I didn't bet one way or another, but I will say this.
Twink Caleb did.
Oh, Twink Caleb bet against Mizzou on this one, did he?
He did.
Yeah.
He took Cowboy Cody with him.
Good deal. I'm glad to hear it. Fuck them. Fuck them where they live. Yeah, the Missouri Tigers had I think a 24-point lead at one point. They frittered it down to 2 points late, but yet I think Mitchell got a key three-pointer that kind of boosted them back up. They ended up extending their lead back to 9 and then ended up winning 76-67. It was super exciting. It roped me in, Colin, in a way that Missouri basketball has not pulled me in I do not know how long. 10 years? My Mizzou basketball boner was at full mast. It was incredible.
Well, I doubt it was incredible. The game, certainly.
Yeah, the game was incredible. The boner was mediocre at best.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Colin, look, I've been able to be at a lot of Missouri, Kansas basketball games in my life, and most of the time they're pretty exciting, even when we don't come out ahead. This one, I mean, it really, look, we've done Kansas news on this show for fucking 11, 12 years. We talk about the Kansas rivalry, Mizzou, Kansas. A lot of people talk about, hey, forget about it. We haven't played them in a long time. It's dead. That talk seemed utterly gone in this game. I mean, the students were fucking rabid. The fans were rabid. It was crazy. The environment was crazy. The game was crazy. It reminded me of days gone by. And it felt so good. It was such a special day. And the way the crowd stormed the court, it just reminded me of days of old. And it reminded me of what college basketball can be when you're good, because we've been bad for so long. It was just a breath of fresh air for me.
Yeah, it was awesome. The atmosphere was obviously incredible. It was fun to watch on TV. It's fun to watch it on TV and try to look at it through the eyes of someone who is not a Mizzou fan. Because, when you've got a prime spot on ESPN and a rivalry game, there's plenty of folks watching that game that don't have a rooting interest. And so I love the fact that when people that aren't connected to this university tune in to that game, they see that atmosphere, they hear the chants, of fuck KU. It's cool. It's a good look. And despite what Kansas fans clutching their pearls would say, I think that, seeing that crowd, that raucous in an exciting game is a good thing ultimately, and a good look for university, despite the use of some naughty words. And we're not all grown up, so we can't all hear naughty words. But
that's right. That's it, because it's not classy.
Yeah. In a world where our politicians are calling each other miserable cocksuckers every day, we all clutch our pearls when the F word is used at a basketball game.
Yeah, the Mr. Brightside was played unabashedly. The fans were yelling "fuck KU," as they should, because fuck KU. And
obviously,
it was fucking beautiful. I don't even know what to say. Dennis Gates, I thought he handled the day well. I mean, obviously we let a lead slip away, but Colin and I talked before we recorded about when you play a number one team, when you bust out to a big lead, it's going to tighten up. That's the way basketball works. But we held on late. The way Dennis Gates called the timeout with 6 seconds left to usher fans out who had prematurely ran onto the court, but also to let Bill Self and Kansas get the fuck out of there before they got railroaded.
To tuck their tails and run the locker room.
With their tiny penises. Yeah, it was handled very well. I think what I like about it is that Mizzou students now got a taste of what 120 years worth of Mizzou students have had in this rivalry versus Kansas, and what a sad generation of 10 years of college students have missed out on not playing Kansas. This is the kind of special thing you just don't get playing Iowa State or Auburn. It just doesn't level up to this. And you were talking about, if you're a fan of college basketball, but not necessarily Mizzou, it just... it was one of those games where I saw people saying, like, that Mizzou game was the best atmosphere in college sports this year, and it reminds me of the Oklahoma game where there was like 34 points of being scored in the fourth quarter, and people who were not Mizzou or Oklahoma fans were like, what's going on in Columbia, Missouri tonight? I feel like it was a what's going on in Columbia, Missouri moment again on the basketball court. And, I mean, goddamn, I don't know if you want to get into the nuts and bolts of the game itself, but for me, the important thing was the vibe, the emotions surrounding it. And what a big deal for Dennis Gates in this basketball program to not just get a big, quad one win. You beat the number one team in the country and you beat Kansas. It's as big as it fucking gets. It's, dare I say, our Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a nuts and bolts standpoint, I don't have much to add. We scored consistently, which has been something that has been miserable the last few seasons. We just have these huge fucking droughts. And to have a player like Bates, who's very obviously in control of the game, wants the ball in his hands, is comfortable leading this team against the number one team in the nation. I mean, he played with the confidence I haven't seen a lot of Mizzou players play with in recent memory. They seem to have the size it takes to compete. I mean, my only real gripe is Gates still subs too much. And I felt like he subbed less in this game than he has in some of the others, but he still subs too much. I mean, I feel like it's hard to get into a rhythm. Sometimes you just want to go, hey, you know what? People have been playing basketball with like 5 stars and a couple of fucking guys off the bench for a lot of years. Why do you got to try to use 27 people? But when you beat the number one team in the nation, I mean, it's hard to argue with results.
To me, the thing that I was impressed by was our defense, because we got the win over Cal after giving up, going down 16 points in the first half, because our defense would just give up open three-pointer after open three-pointer. And I feel like this basketball team has a tendency to leave guys open in the perimeter, and our defense was tenacious all the way through. And when we did go through a stretch of 5 or 6 minutes where our offense could not do a goddamn thing late in the second half, our defense is what kept us in this thing. Now, I should also mention that Kansas really did shit down their legs quite often. They had, I think, 22 turnovers, and they missed, they missed layups and they missed a lot of 3-pointers. They were not on their game, but Missouri took advantage, and you got to give them all the credit in the world for that. And it was, like I said, it was just one of the. I mean, it was a highlight reel moment. It's been a long time where a Mizzou basketball game competes with a Mizzou football game for excitement to me, and it certainly did. It lived up to that.
Yep. It was fantastic. It was absolutely, positively, absolutely fantastic.
So I don't even know where to go from here. I mean, obviously, it's a good thing for our program. I think, God, Bates had 29 points, led the way. We didn't have Caleb Grill on top of it, and he's going to be coming back the way they talk, although he had a neck brace on the sidelines. Missouri's next game, they're, up against, I think, Long Island. So we continue our stretch of like horrible garbage teams. Then we have Jacksonville State.
Long Island Possible Bearcats?
The Long Island Possible Bearcats. And then Jacksonville State. And then the one that we used to get excited for every year, the arch rivalry game against Illinois in St. Louis on December 22nd is coming up. And I'm more excited about that now, given the state of the Tigers. Obviously, their one loss coming to Memphis in the first game of the year got people kind of bummed, but Memphis looks good. So, I don't know.
Lose.
I know they did just lose, but they also took down, I think, 2 number ones en route to that loss. So, the loss looks better now than it did in week 1. I think coming off of that 0-19 conference play season last year, Dennis Gates had lost a lot of the capital he built up in his first season. And obviously, I think he bought a lot of it back against with this Kansas win. But we haven't even started conference play yet. So we will see what this team really, really is. But goddamn, I'm just more confident. And part of me, Colin, feels like it's going back to those retro jerseys. Couldn't hurt.
Nope. I think it's all part and parcel. Look good, feel good.
Missouri had
Look
these
classy, be classy.
They had these jerseys where they didn't have anything but like the oval tiger head on them last year, and sort of like the dirty gold. I thought those were some of the worst, like practice jersey garbage outfits they've ever had. Going to the retro jerseys they wore against Kansas was key.
To some Tiger fans ranging from teenagers to early 20s not that long ago, and I was shocked at the admiration for the oval tiger, because I was telling them, I was like, God, I hate our just terrible oval clip art tiger. Like, I just don't like it. It looks cheap. It looks like something you had made with clip art, and I don't love it. I love all the retro stuff, the block M and the tiger paw and the sailor tiger, and I don't know, all that kind of stuff over the oval. And they did not agree. They're all about the oval tiger. And I thought, maybe am I just old?
Well, I mean, we've had the fucking oval tiger now for like 20 years, and so maybe it's retro in its own way. I don't know. It is lame. It's certainly lame the way the jerseys were laid out. I think that when you win in a jersey like they wore against Kansas, it makes it a lot cooler.
Yeah, for sure.
You
got to have your drip right if you're going to get your Riz going.
That's right. You're a cool dude, Colin. You're cool and young and hip. Hey, fellow teens. Moving over to the football side, Colin, I think one of the biggest news items is the fact that our Tigers have been chosen to be the representatives from the SEC in the Music City Bowl coming up on December.
The Music City Bowl in beautiful Muscatine, Iowa.
No.
Oh, what?
No. Music City Bowl will actually be played in Nashville, Tennessee. We will be facing the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Well, that was way off. That's a good thing, too, because, it would be an awful close game for Iowa.
You'd think so, yeah. It's weird. We've only played Iowa 13 times in our history, and most of those have taken place in the 1800s. For being a border state, we don't have a real rabid rivalry against this team. Iowa is 8-4. When I first checked, I think Missouri opened as a 1.5-point favorite over Iowa. That has now moved to 3, as I think the Iowa quarterback and leading running back have both opted out for this one. So, I'm kind of confident about this game. The one thing I will say is it's now sponsored by, it's now the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl. So I'm afraid TJ Moe is going to be protesting this game because the word trans is in it. But anyway, the rest of us will be watching. And I just feel like, we got a guest on. We got a guy from the Hawkaholics podcast named Brandon who's going to talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes this season and what he expects to see out of this team. But like I said, Cade McNamara, who was the Michigan transfer who played for Iowa, he has entered the portal and will not be in this game. And the kid they got running at quarterback now is kind of an RPO guy, which makes me feel better, Colin, because I feel like we've seen a lot of running quarterbacks this year, 1, and 2, it's our secondary that really gives me concerns on defense when, Burks and Deloach are completely out of position and giving up long bombs. And if we got an RPO kind of quarterback, that's less scary to me. So I just think we match up well against Iowa, and I have some optimism that Missouri's going to get its 10th win of the season for the second season in a row.
Yeah, I haven't watched any Iowa football. I know they've been good and competitive this year. I feel like national media has slept in the Tigers. The results have varied, but I feel pretty confident in the Tigers when they're putting it all together. When they're putting it all together, they're a pretty good football team, very talented. And we have got to see it in spurts at times in the season. And if they can and I feel like later in the season, I got to see it more and more. Those spurts came more regular, and I'm hoping this bowl game they sort of put it all together and really just put a beating on Iowa. I think Mizzou literally fell a spot for not playing.
Yeah, weirdly in the AP
poll. For some reason we get Syracuse up there. But I think I would like them to take a team that I think people, regard as a pretty good football team in Iowa and just absolutely boat race them.
I do think Missouri has it in them. I don't know that they're going to do it, but they certainly have the ability to. Luther Burden III has opted out of this game. He is declaring for the draft, as many people expected him to do. But Brady Cook not only will be playing, but Brady Cook will be healthy. And it may be the first time all year we've really seen Brady Cook healthy. And I think that bodes well for the Tigers because... Well,
and you're going to get an opportunity to see more Joshua Manning this way. Missouri has plenty of wide receivers with guys like Burden and Weiss on your roster. It's easy to forget them. But if Weiss and Burden both decide, hey, for the sake of our careers, we're going to sit this one out, Mizzou has the depth to absorb that at the wide receiver position. Not so sure if they had the depth of the offensive line now that Mingo has decided to declare for the draft.
Yeah, that's going to hurt, obviously. But
3 linemen.
Yeah, right. But I was missing their guys too. So this is the new era of college football where you get to the bowl games and it's a whole different team you're going to be looking at. But it also gives you the opportunity to look what next year might look like when you do get some of these guys who are getting their first chance to play in these bowl games. I don't know. I have a little bit of optimism. One, like Luther Burden will be gone, sure, but he also got 3 fucking looks in the Arkansas game. So it's not like we've been relying solely on Luther Burden anyway. So like you said, Joshua Manning's going to be there. A lot of those guys are going to be there, and Brady Cook's going to be healthy. So I don't know. I just think that Mizzou is motivated. I think Mizzou wants to get that 10th win. I think it's important to them. I don't think they're a team that is like, I don't know. I just hear about teams like Arkansas and Ole Miss and Alabama that don't give a fuck about their bowl game because they feel like they should be somewhere else or they should have had a better season or this or that or whatever. I feel like one thing that Eli Drinkwitz has done with this team in a productive way is that he gets them up. He makes it feel important. He makes them feel like they need to be there. There's not a lot of opt-outs. There's not a lot of transfers out. When we have bowl season, the guys show up and they play hard. So I just think there's a lot of momentum on the Tigers side.
If we want to move into the neighborhood we want to be in, if we want to, this is a 10-win season this year, a 10-win season last year. If we want to become a program that doesn't just have these sort of high highs and low lows and sort of find a level of success that some of our blue blood counterparts enjoy. Like we're going to have to win consistently. And I think that's why Eagle Eye gets these guys up. It's like we're building a program. And I think he's got kids bought into that idea. So 10 wins is important. Back-to-back season with 10 wins. You start stacking 10-win seasons, and pretty soon, you move out of the South Carolina and the Kentucky neighborhood, and you move into you plop in there next to Auburn and LSU. And so I think it's important the Tigers continue to build success with double digits. Because honestly, I feel like there's a difference between a 9-win season and a 10-win season. Double digits means something.
Yeah, and I don't care what the schedule's like. I mean, I look at Iowa's schedule. Iowa hasn't played fuck all of anybody this year. They have not played a fucking soul. And they've lost some bad games. I mean, they've lost to Iowa State. They lost to Michigan State. They lost to UCLA. They have not beaten anyone of substance. But because they're not in the SEC, they're not taking the kind of grief Missouri's taken for it. Frankly, Colin, Alabama, who's crying in their soup because they didn't get selected for the college football playoff, they didn't play anybody in their non-con schedule either. I don't know what they have to complain about. They lost to Vanderbilt in Oklahoma. They didn't do what it takes to get into the fucking college football playoff. And then when you look out a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you look back at what the team has done, people just look at the records. They don't remember who you played. So people remember 10 wins. They don't remember that it came at the hands of a Mercer or a fucking nobody state Bearcats. It's been an exciting week, even though we haven't played any football, Colin. Why don't we take our first break here of the night, come back, and go around the horn with the SEC to talk about the conference championship games that were over the weekend. We even had a few voicemails, and then we'll go ahead and get that Iowa interview in with Hawkaholics podcast. This is the Mizzodcast.
The holiday season is upon us, and if you're searching for the perfect gift for the Mizzou fan in your life, look no further than the best-selling book, Respectable Roughnecks, by Brendan Steenbergen. This true story about the original True Sons, Respectable Roughnecks, takes you on a journey with the 1960 Missouri Tigers as they slugged their way through a brutal Big 8 schedule to become conference champions, Orange Bowl champions, and eventually national champions. Respectable Roughnecks brings the amazing stories of men like Dan Devine, Danny LaRose, and Norris Stevenson to life as they led one of the greatest Tiger teams to ever take the field. Available in hardcover, paperback, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon.com. Respectable Roughnecks is the perfect addition to any collection of Mizzou memorabilia. Order now, and you'll have it in time to give the Mizzou fan in your life the best gift they'll receive all year.
And we are back, and why don't we get into the Mizzodcast mailbag now, following the Missouri win over Kansas.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
I'll tell you what, after losing to Mizzou, I bet Bill Self, which is that alleged heart attack, was real. Fuck Kansas. M-I-Z.
Yeah, the fake heart attack, much like Urban Meyer used to have back in the day.
Holy fuck! Let's fucking go! This is Adam Wolf. Sorry that I didn't call in the last 2 weeks. I was fishing in Antarctica, but I am fucking back, and oh my god, am I going to jerk off tonight. I have the biggest boner that I've had in a long fucking time, and I don't know how to put it down. Something's about to go down tonight, and I don't know. Stormed the court. I went for Bill Self, couldn't find his fat ass, which is unbelievable. Hunter Dickinson, you were a fucking vagina, shooting guns at the student section. You were a bitch. Bill Self, you were a bitch. DeJuan Harris, fuck you. What's it, Brett McMurphy? Actually, fuck you too, because you're a fucking mega douche. That's all I got to say, boys. Woo!
Yeah, you're right to be excited. And humble brag about fishing in Antarctica, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, and one more thing. This is Cole from Woodswater, Mizzou, by the way. There's fewer things out there that are better than beating the Jayhawks. I mean, they do everything wrong. They cheat all the time. I mean, they just don't do stuff right, and it just feels good to beat them, especially after, Coach Gates has taken 2 massive losses to them over the past 2 years. So kudos to Coach Gates. That's a huge win, kind of hopefully a program changing, kind of get you on the upward trajectory kind of deal. But Coach Gates has had a lot of questions come from me lately, but that was one hell of a game and a great way to finish it out. MIV.
ZOU. Yeah, I don't know, Colin. I felt pretty down on Gates after last season. I don't know how much this one game changes your opinion or not, but I'm totally back to square one fine now.
I saw nothing in that game, like I said, that I disliked. But, sometimes, again, it's Jimmy's and Joe's. They played good defense. They scored consistently. It just makes everything look better. It's certainly an easier watch than the Konzo years, which was, I don't know how you could make basketball look so just abhorrent.
It made basketball like homework.
Yeah, or child pornography.
That took a turn.
No, that's too far. But either way, it was unpleasant to watch.
Yeah, definitely unpleasant to watch.
Hey, Jameson from Branson, shut the hell up right now.
Okay, so we're back to that.
Hey, what's up, you fucking idiots?
Oh.
Hope I didn't miss the Kansas episode.
Super fan, Phil.
Sorry I missed the Arkansas game and the Kansas game. So with that said, I just want to say, fuck Arkansas and fuck Kansas. Best fucking thing to probably ever happen in a span of 2 weeks. So, fuck you, Bill Self. Fuck you, Arkansas. Your boy is back. The fucking juice is loose. I busted out of the fucking loony bin. We're back in action, motherfuckers. M-I-fucking-Z.
Yeah, ZOU, Phil. And we'd be remiss if we didn't say, for those of you who don't know, Superfan Phil had actually been in the hospital. It's pretty serious. I believe what we had heard was he had full-blown butthole AIDS. That
was the rumor.
The medical diagnosis was full-blown butthole AIDS. I don't know how you come back from that, but he's obviously good enough now to make phone calls, but I still suspect that he has just rampant butthole AIDS coursing through his body.
Yep. That's what I've heard, Brendan. I'm not a medical professional, but the symptoms seem to match.
Yeah, so welcome back to the show, Phil, for however long you might live. We suspect it won't be long, but we're glad to have you now.
I was sitting in my easy chair just watching my TV when a masked man broke my door down and came to talk to me. But before he got a word in, he hit me with a stick and I passed out really quick. When I finally awoke, the wind was blowing in my face. I was parachuting down into a most peculiar place. I landed in a cornfield and then began to mourn, for I was stranded in the Hawkeye State. Great! I was trapped in Iowa, where Tom Arnold is a deity. All the tractors need a push, and they all agree with Bush. Every 10 miles there's an Applebee's. Now in Iowa you'll find a topsy-turvy mixed-up world. The governor's a circus clown, the state bird is the squirrel. The streets are paved with corn, and the cows wear stupid hats, and the dogs are chased by cats. They drive tractors on the highway, and they bet on wrestling fights. They've got a beach, but it's man-made. You know that isn't right. Everybody owns a gun, and they go to Sears for fun. Up is down, and black is white. Shite. I was trapped in Iowa, where they keep left-handed people in the zoo. And they don't wear any pants, and they're not allowed to dance. Oh, Iowa, I'm trapped in you. After a month in this dystopia, I almost lost my mind. So I stole an unlocked pickup truck and drove to the state line. But I got an electric shock. Ow! when I tried to pass. If I have to eat at Applebee's one more time, this Fiesta lime chicken will be shoved up the manager's eye.
Joining us now is Brandon from the Hawkaholics podcast. He's an Iowa guy and going to tell us a little bit about this Iowa Hawkeyes team who we're going to face in the Music City Bowl. Brandon, I appreciate you joining us.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm pumped, dude. It's awesome to talk with some SEC boys.
Yeah.
Two powerhouses.
Right, latter-day SEC boys. It's interesting to me, Hawkeyes and Missouri, two schools that border each other, but yet there's not really a real rivalry with Missouri. I mean, look, we play Arkansas every year. Obviously, Missouri's got a long history of rivalry with Kansas. In basketball, anyway, we have a big rivalry with Illinois. But Iowa, there's not much. I go on Winsipedia and look. I think we've played each other 13 times. Missouri holds a one-game advantage, 7-6 all time. And most of that was done in the 1800s. It looks like we played each other several times in the 1800s. Last played in like 1910, took a slight 100-year break, and then played again in 2010 and haven't played since Iowa beat Missouri 27-24 in Tempe, Arizona, and one of the Gary Pinkel era bowl games for us. So kind of weird that we're so close, but we really don't see each other that often.
It's kind of funny, man. So just this is it kind of hits home to me a little bit. I actually grew up in southern Iowa, so like right on the border. So I knew a lot of, actually, believe it or not, Missouri fans that were north of the border, and we always talked about it. So that game, actually, the Insight.com Bowl back in the day, which was that was a big thing.
Iowa is 8-4 this year. Missouri is 9-3. Mizzou was hoping to be in the college football playoff, but basically one loss away. What was Iowa's expectations coming into this season? Like I said, they're 8-4. I guess middle of the pack, Big Ten. Yeah. What were the thoughts going into this season, and what's the outlook on the team now?
I'm glad you asked that. And what we were talking about, the last question you asked me, was the whole 2010 situation. We were coming off of an Orange Bowl victory. Granted, we went to the Big Ten championship, and then we also laid an egg in our bowl game last year. This season had so much high expectations, just like 2010 did. I actually picked the Hawks to go 10-2 this year. Typical Iowa record is 8-4. The defense, everybody knows Iowa for their defense, not so much their offense. Their defense just took a major step back this year, and the offense didn't do too much better. However, during the regular season, we had a stud for a running back who I'm pretty sure would be in New York if that freak of nature out in Boise, Idaho wasn't a thing. But so yeah, it never fails. Whenever Iowa gets somebody that's just insane, they always have something in front of them, and it never fails. But there was a couple losses we had this year that we shouldn't have lost, like for your former conference foe, Iowa State, who, by the way, I don't know how you feel about them now since you're SEC, but I absolutely hate them, and I enjoyed seeing them get destroyed the other day. So, and I remember there were some games back in the day, the Big 12, you guys had some pretty good matchups, especially basketball too. But
yeah, well,
no, it's just really, it's frustrating. Like the secondary had the most returning starters, and for whatever reason, we coughed up a lot of big plays this season. I've noticed, and that's how we lost to Iowa State, as a matter of fact, was like the deep balls. That the defense just is a huge letdown. Now, the offense was doing really well in the beginning of the season, but has slowly tanked a little bit, back to kind of where everybody's used to, and just a little bit below average. Now, we've been dealing with some quarterback issues. We had the transfer, Cade McNamara, come in from Michigan, who is now in the portal. As I talked about, Caleb Johnson, he opted out. As far as I know, I think we have, 1, 2, 3 big opt-outs right now, and that obviously, since we were so early into this, there's probably going to be more. down the line. I just hope it's not our two stud linebackers and Nick Jackson and Jay Higgins, which both of them will be playing on Sunday.
It seems like to me the focus of the offense for Mizzou would have been Caleb Johnson at running back, who I believe is not going to be at the Music City Bowl, correct?
Correct.
I'm looking at the Iowa offense, and it was, I think, I see close to 2,400 yards of running offense to 1,580 yards of passing offense, and Caleb Johnson got the bulk of those carries.
Yep.
That's the offense, it looks like, for Iowa, and he won't be there.
Pretty much, man. Like, what's even crazier, too, is, like, to start the season, he wasn't even the starter. It was this freshman named Kamari Moulton, and I don't understand why they went that route. And even playing an FCS opponent, he just had a really bad game. So then Caleb Johnson came in, took over, and did his thing, and the rest is history. Broke the single-season rushing record. I believe he has the most touchdowns in Iowa history, I think, in a single season. So he set some records. So this is really going to hurt us.
Yeah, he has more touchdowns this year than every other Iowa offensive player combined.
That is correct.
It's crazy. I'm looking at, Iowa is unique in one circumstance where, and tell me what this is like, because Missouri has not experienced it. You all have had the same head coach for, I believe, 26 years in Captain Kirk there.
Yes.
Up years, down years. What is the fan feelings about Kirk Ferentz, who's been there, like I said, forever? He's 69 years old,
soon to be 70.
Yeah, so this is a era of college football where guys last 3 or 4 or 5 years tops, where they're either moving on to bigger, greener pastures, or they're getting fired. How has he stuck around so long, and what's the general feeling about him in Iowa right now?
I would say in the beginning, it's just the Iowa way. We don't really like change.
Yeah.
If you look at who came before Kirk, it was Hayden Fry, and he was there since like the 70s, dude.
Yeah.
Like, what's funny to me is, like, I've only had 2 coaches in my entire lifetime, and I'm 34 years old. All I knew was Hayden Fry, and he retired when I was like 8.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk Ferentz has been there since I was 9. So I will tell you this: I have been a Kirk supporter for a very, very long time. However, I do feel with the changes and some of the decisions he's made in the recent years, even though the record says otherwise, we have just been super lucky with talented team and our schedule. A lot of fans are like a little irritated, especially after like this season. We should either be looking in or locked into a playoff spot, or like right on the outside.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen this year. And I think fans, to be honest with you, man, they're ready for a change. But I have two sides. One is a lot of teams would kill for 8-4, 9-3 records every single year. But at the same time, if you get rid of Kirk, there is a huge chance, or even if he retires, I mean, that's going to happen, obviously, but there's a good chance that there's going to be some growing pains. Like, you could go 1-11, 2-10, and that's the one argument I have for just enjoy the ride now. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure if Iowa wins this game, and I think he'll have one more game, and he'll pass Woody Hayes for most career wins for the Big Ten coach. And it's not just Big Ten games. This is all of his games. That includes, non-con bowl games, you name it. So he's going to break the record because he plans on staying next year. And if he goes less than 6 wins next year, I'll be shocked.
I'm looking at your schedule this year, and the thing that stuck out to me was, honestly, the schedule looks soft as church music. I think the only ranked opponent on the schedule was Ohio State, who drummed Iowa 35-7. this was not a murderer's row. Obviously, the Big Ten was not. It was not the best year for the Big Ten, right? So there was that in the conference, and then the non-con schedule wasn't. Illinois State, Troy. Some of these games were not that imposing. So Iowa State, you mentioned you lose by 1 point, 20-19 early on. That's obviously a disappointment. An in-state opponent who you feel like you ought to beat every year. Ohio State, you don't want to lose that bad to it, but it's obviously a good team. Michigan State beat you 32-20. This was not a great year for Michigan State, and so I'm sure that was a disappointing loss as well. And then the newcomer to you all, UCLA, beat you 20-17. You all were on the road there, so that was a tough loss, I'm sure. But that puts you at 8-4, and then I'm looking at your sort of signature win, and I'm trying to scratch my head as to say who that might be. I know, is it Nebraska? Is it Washington? Neither of those teams were very good this year. Who would you say was the signature win for Iowa this year?
This is what cracks me up. If you see most of the home wins, except for Nebraska, we absolutely smoked teams. Like this year absolutely makes no sense to either me or my co-host on our show or anybody else. I would have to honestly, man, like since the scores are pretty much identical for our home games, I would say Wisconsin.
Yeah, 42. That was a 42-10 drubbing of Wisconsin.
Yeah, and then if you look at the Washington score, it was basically the same thing.
40-16, right?
Go all the way back to the first game of the season, Illinois State, same thing, just absolute, just slashing.
40-0. Yeah.
Nebraska, you guys' favorite. I don't have an issue with them. I actually like a lot of Iowa and Nebraska. That's a rivalry now, by the way. Big, it's very fabricated in my opinion. But anyway, that's a typical Nebraska Iowa game. Nebraska gets ahead. And somehow, some way, Nebraska's, and sure enough, Iowa wins the game. Walk-off field goal every single time. If you go back, so to me, that game was a snoozer because it was just Nebraska was dominating up until the second half, and then they just pooped their pants and got right back in. Caleb Johnson did his thing, got us to tie the game. Next thing you know, there's that game winner.
Going into this Music City Bowl facing Missouri, one, as you mentioned, Cade McNamara, the former Michigan quarterback, has entered the portal. Yep. Who will we be seeing behind center for the Hawkeyes?
He's actually somebody that we have campaigned for to get into the game to play. Brendan Sullivan, he is the former Northwestern quarterback. He is not bad. He's an RPO quarterback, likes to run. Not so much a passer. I mean, he will pass the ball. I've seen him chuck the ball down the field before, but he's nothing to be afraid of as bad, I would say, as his running. You need to definitely watch out for his feet because, if he's back there in the pocket, scoops, scattles, and runs around, you're screwed. If you don't pay attention to him, you're SOL, man. He will take off. He loves to take off. I think, to be honest with you, I think he would rather run it himself than to pass it.
So I'm just going off of your voice and the vibe I'm getting from you. I'm not expecting that you're predicting Iowa to win this bowl game. Am I off base here?
You are.
Okay, let's hear it.
You are off.
Let's hear it.
I think it's going to be close. I think whoever wins the turnover battle will win the game. The offense, I mean, I'm not sure. Is Brady Cook still planning on playing?
Oh yeah. Look, Brady Cook Brady Cook's the kind of kid where he's not going to probably go to the NFL, and he's like I said, he's got pictures of him. There's pictures out there of Brady Cook at 7-8 years old wearing his Mizzou gear. He's like dying in the wool. Okay. Born in St. Louis, loves Mizzou. Like you'd have to literally chop his arm off to get him to not play in that bowl game. He's gonna be there. Okay. Be there, yeah, for sure.
So then lower my expectations down a little bit.
Not only will Brady Cook be playing, but Brady Cook will be back from a lot of injuries that he's been playing through the last few weeks. So he won't have some of his greatest weapon in Luther Burden III, who has declared for the draft and will be sitting out this bowl game. But Luther Burden was underutilized anyway. So, I totally misread your optimism. I saw that Missouri, out of the gate, I saw Mizzou was a 1.5 point favorite. I just checked before we started recording, and I saw that the line had moved up to 3. Missouri is now a 3-point favorite in this game. A little bit curious about that, but I think, losing your starting quarterback and your leading running back has probably got a big factor in that line.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Missouri can definitely underperform. They've shown themselves capable of that. But I as a Missouri fan, I've kind of got a little confidence going into this game, to be honest.
Now that I heard Cook's playing, it drops me down a little bit. I still think Iowa can pull this off because for some reason, except I don't know what the deal was. Well, I know why, because the offense was atrocious. But there's a little bit more optimism with this offense. Not like a world beater, but I think they can hang in there. I think it's going to be first one to like 24 will win, I think. I don't think it's going to be a shootout by any means, nor do I think somebody will win by like 2 touchdowns. I just think it's going to be a good old Midwestern bar fight, to be honest with you. Yeah. Both teams will be confident. Both teams, to me, they remind me of each other a little bit. You guys have a top 25 defense, don't you?
We do. The scary thing to us has been our secondary of late. We've given up some chunk plays in the secondary, but you're talking about this quarterback in Sullivan being a RPO guy, and again, that's given me a little bit more confidence because we've seen a lot of that this year. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks who are who run an option type of offense. And they're quite, our defense is quite accustomed to it. The kind of quarterbacks who are going to burn a Missouri team are the ones who are the drop back passer types, because we've got a couple guys in secondary who are not very seasoned, and they're trying to replace NFL caliber guys who left last year, and they got burned a lot. It's the RPO guys, our line and our linebackers. They can sniff that out pretty well. They've shown to do a pretty good job of that. So, who knows what this game will bring, especially with a month of waiting. But I'm more afraid of the drop back passers than I am the RPO guys.
Understandable.
Before I let you go, Brandon, do you want to give us a score prediction?
Yeah, let's do 27-21 Iowa.
Okay, so you're not only do you think that you're going to beat the spread, but you're going to beat the Tigers fairly soundly. So that's fair coming from an Iowa guy. We'll see what happens. It will be interesting to see these two programs who have not played each other all that often, especially of late, have a chance to go after each other. Big Ten matchup versus SEC. So, Brandon, why don't you tell our listeners, if they're interested in hearing more about the Hawkeyes coming up to this bowl game, where they can find you all?
So I've been a little clean tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I will say that Wednesday night we are bringing on the Mizzou Beats cast.
Incorrect.
Do a little interview. We are on Facebook. We call ourselves the Hawkaholics, just the Hawkaholics. No podcast at the end, nothing. We have that, and we have a Twitter, which is, I believe it's capital Hawkaholic 319 on Twitter, and we are a part of the Villain Sports Network. So check us out, guys. We have a pretty decent following. We get a lot of comments, a lot of guys talking crap, not only about opponents, but about our team too. So we get all the above.
That's right, and I think Colin will be on with you guys if I'm not, but at least Colin will be on with you all Wednesday during your live show, right? So that'll be fun. He'll mix it up a little bit, especially if you guys doing a live show. What he really likes to do is aggravate opposing fan bases, so he's pretty good at doing that. Hopefully it'll
bring it on.
Hopefully that'll bring up a lot of comments for you all.
Bring it on.
All right, thank you very much, Brandon, for joining the show, and I'm looking forward to December 30th for the Music City Bowl in Nashville, where the Hawkeyes and Tigers will face off.
Heck yeah. All right, thank you so much.
I won't ever go back to Iowa. Won't go back to Iowa. Won't go back to Iowa again.
Colin, as I mentioned, the conference championship games were this weekend, so let's get into it now because it has impacts on the college football playoffs.
break our bread at Waffle House, our teams are pretty good. We even play some basketball when Jesus says we should. So pour a little bourbon and repeat right after me. We built a church for Saturdays and called it SEC. Jesus loves football.
And would you fire up the Paul Feinbot?
Will do.
Alabama. Nick Saban.
Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thank you, Mizzou Cast Podcast.
All right. So the conference championship games did take place over the weekend. It was somewhat impactful to the way the college football playoffs came out. Some games, not others. But let's get into them now. First and foremost, I want to mention that Barry Odom's UNLV Running Reds, they lost to Boise State, who is heading to the college football playoffs, 21-7. I did see a little bit of this game, and it was never really in doubt. But I was rooting for old Barry, and he was good enough to get a new job as the head coach of Purdue, and now is a Big Ten coach for the first time. So congrats to our old friend of the show, Barry Odom.
Maybe we'll have to interview him at some point to ask him about his great success.
Yeah, and what life is like now in West Lafayette, Indiana. The Big Ten championship game took place between Oregon and Penn State. Oregon was number 1 in the country, Penn State number 3. I expected Oregon to run away with this one. I was not impressed with Penn State all year, but it was much closer than I thought. They did win 45-37, did Oregon. A big shootout, lots of points scored, but Penn State closed the gap and kept it close. It's going to be interesting to see the way this turns out. Both of these teams are obviously in the college football playoff. Clemson took on SMU. This was the most important game, I think, of the weekend for the way the college football playoffs shook out. Clemson got the win 34-31 late. They led throughout and gave up 17 fourth quarter points to SMU, who snuck back in it. Clemson got the last minute field goal to win and get the automatic bid into the playoffs. Now at 10-3, SMU was then selected to stay in despite the loss over an Alabama team, which caused a lot of gnashing of teeth around Tuscaloosa.
When the same rules apply to Alabama that apply to every other program in college football, they just can't understand it. They're like, why aren't we getting the benefit of the doubt for being Alabama? That's like, because you lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt.
Yeah. No,
what are you talking about? Like all that's happening right now is the same set of rules that applies to every other program is being applied to you at the moment.
They are so upset. I mean, the Alabama people are just tearing their hair out about this and saying, "Oh, our strength of schedule was so strong. Our strength of schedule was so strong." And I'm like, yeah, you had a better schedule than SMU. Nobody's going to argue that. It's true. But you also lost to Vanderbilt and you lost to Oklahoma. 2 teams that are not very good. And I just don't understand how you can have the fucking audacity to make a case that you belong with 3 losses when these other teams don't have that many losses. And I don't care what their fucking schedule is. Don't lose to Vanderbilt. Don't lose to Oklahoma. Then you don't have to cry and moan on social media and have these fucking arguments and debate whether you should or shouldn't be in. Don't lose those fucking games, because Missouri had 3 losses. South Carolina had 3 losses. Ole Miss had 3 losses. None of us are complaining in the way that Alabama fans are complaining. Fuck them. Fuck them where they live.
All the programs you previously mentioned have had the rules applied to them.
Yeah, that's right. We live in the real world. So, I mean, look, I have said on social media, I feel like Alabama in this case is the United Healthcare CEO of college football playoffs. I understand why they're upset, but don't expect me to feel super sad. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I feel. I'm not super sad. Was it the right thing? Probably not. But I'm not sad. So fuck them.
That's right. That's right.
Moving on, Iowa State took on Arizona State in the Big 12 championship. It's a weird thing to say Arizona in the Big 12, but that's the way it was. Arizona State embarrassed Iowa State 45-19 in a laugher. Arizona State now is 11-2. Iowa State's chances of being considered normal or good or average are gone now. Sun Devils are playoff bound. And then that takes us to the Texas-Georgia SEC championship game. Colin, I don't know about you, but I was rooting against Texas simply because they're Texas and I don't like them, and I don't want them to win the SEC in their first year in the conference.
God, Brennan, that reminds me. I watched this game, and if people haven't done this yet, on some of these broadcasts, there is the option to watch it in Skycast.
Yeah.
Have you done this?
Yeah, I have. I've done it accidentally. I've just tuned in on my Hulu, and turned out it was all these statistics and things popping up. I'm like, what's going on? This seems different. And it was the Skycast version.
Well, you get to see it from the all 22. What I love about it is there's no announcer, so you can hear the band playing dun, 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 between each. It makes you feel like you're in the stadium. And watching it all 22, you just really, that's the way to watch football. We're given to it in this, the side profile, because I guess that's what they decide is more palatable to the novice viewer. But if you really want to see what's happening in the game, especially in the trenches, it's amazing. I feel like I hope it becomes a standard option for all viewing. I will never watch another game. I won't know the name of announcers at some point, because I will never hear them. It was the best way to watch a game.
It's funny because when you're at the football game, it's the last place you want to sit is on the end zones.
Yeah. Well, and it's not quite as bad as all that, because it's in person, it's the little slingy, drone on cords thing that they have, and so it's I say it's all 22, but they're right there, they're zooming in. Like I said, it's phenomenal. You can see every angle, and the camera literally swoops in and out. It's it's incredible, and I loved every second of it. I obviously very excited about it.
Georgia won this game in overtime over Texas. Texas moves to 11-2 on the year. Georgia is also 11-2 now. It means very little, I feel like, as both of those teams are going to the college football playoff, along with Tennessee, who is the third and final representative to the college football playoffs for the SEC. Let's talk about that now, Colin. The way the college football playoffs were selected. It's all done now. It's over. We know who's in. We know who's out. Do you have any strong opinions one way or another about the way things shook out?
I don't want to give Alabama any credit, but SMU's schedule is dog shit. But you know what? When you have 12 teams, you're gonna have that. You're gonna have some dog shit teams in there that are gonna get a chance to prove they're not dog shit. But we all know there's gonna be some rum-dums in the mix. That's just the way it is, but that's okay. I'm so much happier about the circumstances of an Alabama, sort of gnashing their teeth than, the 14 playoff, where it was just constantly, there were so many teams that you knew could be competitive in a playoff scenario that were never going to get the opportunity because of that 14 format. And now I love this. I love the opportunity for a team like SMU to surprise, shock the world. I love the opportunity for some big blue chip programs to really bash heads in something other than a national championship game. It's fun. I can't wait. I just literally can't wait. It's a long time coming. It doesn't feel like that many years ago we were all saddled with the garbage BCS system that was just just designed by a mongoloid. You know what I mean? Who come up with this system? It was so bad. And here we are in a playoff world. Everything is right with the world.
I feel like there obviously has been a lot of complaining about the selection process or who was picked and who wasn't. But the thing I go back to is that the complaining is all at the fringes. It's the last people in, who should and who shouldn't get into the 10, 11, 12 spot. But the best teams in the country, the teams that very much truly belong, are there, and they're there without question. And that's not something you could say when it was just a 4-team playoff. So fuck Alabama and fuck those teams on the edges, because you just play better, just win more games. I mentioned that the SMU Clemson game was more decisive as to who got in and who didn't than the other ones. Clemson gets the automatic bid in the final college football playoff. They're ranked number 16. If they didn't get the win, they wouldn't have been in. But yet they ended up retaining SMU, who got the final spot and then Alabama was the first one out because Arizona State, which was listed at number 12, they get an automatic bid for winning the Big 12 championship. So the last teams left out were Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. 3 of those teams were SEC teams. All of them were 9-3. I don't feel bad for any of them. Like, you should win more fucking games. You know, I don't care how soft some of these Big Ten schedules were. If you won your games, you won your games. And Alabama, the games they lost, they talk about their strength of schedule. They didn't lose to LSU and Georgia. They lost to fucking Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. That's why they're out, because they had embarrassing losses to bad teams. So I just don't have any sympathy.
Lost in all this is like Ole Miss, who has been lobbying on social media and like sort of sidling up to Alabama with the same arguments. So I'm like, fuck off, Ole Miss. Like, you're not even in this conversation. Yeah. Like, Ole Miss needs to be sit down with Missouri, because you don't see Missouri fans being like, why are we in? We only have 3 losses. Because we know our record is not going to support that argument. And neither is Ole Miss's. So stop.
South Carolina's in the same boat. South Carolina, frankly,
now South Carolina, frankly, had a much better case than Ole Miss or Missouri.
I think they had a better case than Alabama, but they weren't even in the discussion. And it's like, oh, Alabama got left out. No, I think South Carolina got left out. Fuck you, Alabama. Fuck you. Anyway, who got left in and who got left out doesn't matter, because there are 12 teams in, and the winner amongst them probably won't be the 10 through 12 teams anyway, right? So it goes down: Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, Indiana, Boise State, SMU, Arizona State, and Clemson. And that is your college football playoffs. And I'm happy about it. I'm happy with it. It's fine. It's all fine.
Yeah, I'm excited for the first year of playoff football.
Bowl season is upon us. Obviously, Missouri's got their big Music City Bowl coming up. We're going to bring that to you. But, you know, the college football playoffs, 12-team college football playoffs are getting started soon. So I think there's obviously reason why we could keep bringing you podcasts as the month or month and a half proceed. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be pretty exciting, Colin, to see this new era of college football.
Yeah, I'm already more interested, already more invested.
Well, until then, folks, M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.
The Mizzou cast.